Hey YouTube. So I haven't been on here a while, and I'm not gonna get into detail why, but um, I've been focusing and thinking a lot about the past. But the only reason why I've been doing it is because I have a daughter, and she's 1.5, and I have to think about the past. I have to realize what my wrongs were in the past, and I have to realize that I need to change for her so that she can have a better future than what I've lived. Um, with that being said, I honestly want to talk about my high school and what I've been through in high school because that was probably the worst time in my life. And if anything, I really seriously think that that was probably the one time that I really needed to have a lot of things changed. Um, so if you've heard my story, if you've seen my story on YouTube, at 13, my grandmother had me on medication for bipolar, and depression and anxiety, which I do have depression and anxiety, but the whole bipolar thing, honestly, 100%, that I don't think I really have bipolar. I don't have like manic moments. I have moments where like I'm silly and like, I like to fuck around just because that's what makes me happy. Like, it's good to do that. It's healthy to have fun. So I do have some moments where like I do get a little giddy and I do kind of like to have fun. But I think with me, like finding a balance between like those moments and the moments where, out of all seriousness, things need to be like chill. I've come to the realization that there have been moments in my life where I have been a little bit like unable to realize some of those things and unable to realize that like, I'm not a kid anymore. I can't like act out like that. But another thing is like there's no real right or wrong to life. Nobody really tells you how to live. You choose to live once you're an adult. And living is what I choose to do. I choose to live. So, um, I think something that I really need to get off my chest is how bad my life in high school was. Um, my home life wasn't that great. Like I said, from the time that I was 13, I was on medications. And that completely ruined my entire life. Like having a label slapped on my forehead that I didn't want anybody to know about, but some people did know about, like that completely ruined how I looked at myself. Not only that, feeling insecure about why I was on medications, why I was taking medications, that was a huge play into some of the after effects of what had happened. I started cutting, and that was a side effect of medication. I was extremely depressed from the medicine I was on, and I took it upon myself to release my pain and my hurt, and I started cutting. I still have the scars from them too, and a lot of it's, I don't know if you could see that, but they're deep. They're pretty deep. And, no need to explain, but I did. I started cutting in sophomore year. Um, I wasn't very happy with myself. I wasn't even reacting to things the way that I normally would because of my medications. So I was being probably unfriendly. I was probably not really like wanting to communicate with anybody because I was trying to hide away from my problems. I was trying to not express myself or show off or prove my situation to anybody. I was just trying to be neutral because I didn't want to be found out. I didn't want people knowing that I was on medications. I didn't want people knowing that I had all these problems at home and out of school or even in school. I didn't want people knowing me because I was embarrassed. I was not really proud of who I was at that point. Not only was I on medicine and on medications, but when I was 16, I started seeing an older guy, and my grandmother took that as a risky behavior because I snuck out of the house to see him, and she put me on a CHINS, which is Child in Need of Behavioral Services, and from there I had a court date every month that I had to show up at. When I first went on the CHINS, I ended up getting a probation officer, and I immediately was placed into a program called Hill House in Beverly. And from that point on, I was in and out of programs throughout my entire high school. I was in programs, I was in and out of hospitalization. I literally was barely in school throughout the 4 years of my high school. I was in and out of school. I would take months at a time out of school to be placed in hospitals or programs because I either cut or my behaviors were not acceptable to my grandmother and she put me in a hospital. So it's literally like I was kind of a prisoner to my own grandmother. And since I was a minor at that time, I didn't have a say in where I was going, what I was doing. My grandmother had a say in where I was going and what I was doing. She had full control over everything. And I'm not saying it's like a bad thing. I'm not saying it's right or wrong because it put me in my place and I realized, a lot. I learned a lot and I didn't end up making some big, huge mistakes like my mom did, but it's not even like a better or worse. It's more of just like it completely ruined my childhood. It ruined my high school years. It ruined my last chances to like have fun and build friendships. It literally, it ruined a lot for me. And till this day, I'm alone. I don't have any of that. So this isn't like a sob story, it's just my story because I realized that a lot of people told their stories at the end of 2013 and I really didn't even know that happened, but this is me telling my story now. So my high school was really hard, completely fucking hard. My grades were slipping. I was failing a lot at points. And, I had to get my grades back up to graduate. I'm surprised I even graduated, to be honest. I ended up having to quit my track team, not only because of love, like what I said in the last video, but I quit my track team because of meeting Michael and, trying to build a life with him outside of high school, but also because my grandmother had gotten sick and she was literally deteriorating right before my eyes my junior year. My junior year was my last year of track, and my senior year I didn't really do much with my after school because, like I said, My grandmother was dying literally before my eyes. She was sick, she was deteriorating, she was in and out of the hospital. I was moving around so much. I was back and forth to her brothers and sisters' houses. It was hell, literally. It wasn't stable. It wasn't anything positive for me and my brother. It was negative. And it was just really fucking hard. It was really hard. But if anything, I did learn from it. I learned from all the programs that I was in. I learned from the hospital situations that I was in. I learned from cutting. I haven't cut for years now. I haven't cut since I was probably 17 and a half. And at 17 and a half, I also chose to get off my medications. I've been off medication since 17. I'm a pretty normal person. Yes, I have my everyday problems. Yes, I have a past that sucks that I have to uncover and look into because I don't want to make the same mistakes for my daughter. But, that doesn't stop me from living my everyday life. I have to live. I have to continue. And it's hard. It's fucking hard. I'm in a homeless shelter right now, raising my 1.5-year-old. And honestly, that's hard. That's the next hard thing I'm going through right now. And it's not easy. It's not easy raising a kid because it's literally like making... It's putting someone before you. It's putting someone before your needs, and as of right now, a lot of my needs are, I need to figure out a lot. Like, I need to figure out for her, like, what I need to make sure not to do. And I need to make sure that she has a bright future ahead of her, and I can't fuck up. And that's always on my mind every single day, and it's hard. It's not easy with a past like mine to raise a child. And, it's even worse because it's like my mom, she made some not so great choices in her life, and knowing that I was raised by my grandmother, it's like I don't want to take 2 steps back into having my kid raised generationally the way that my mom ended up